Hello lovely beaders! If you want to wear this stunning bracelet, then here you have the right beading tutorial to learn how to make it in no time. Nice, huh? For our bracelet, we are going to use bicones in 2 colors, 4mm both, and then 11/0 seed beads in 2 colors. Because we have a 2 needle right angle weave, I'm going to use here some Nymo thread, and make sure you prepare 2 needles. And for today's wide bracelet, we are going to use this type of clasp, which is a magnetic clasp with 2 strands. To build this wide bracelet, we start with the technique that I have showed you in my previous tutorial about how to make this skinny bracelet. And if you want, you can watch that one in the link below or in the card above. And let's get starting. For our right angle weave technique, we are going to use the starting point of 4 bicones. We have the right needle, left needle, and here we replace on the left each bicone with 3 seed beads. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now we are going to use 1 bead connector in between the bicones. We also need 1 bead for the starting point and 1 bead where the threads will cross over. And this is our starting unit. The next unit will be built up in the same way, just that now we replace the bicones on the right. So we replace the bicones with 3 and 3. We need 1 seed bead in between. And 1 to cross over. And this is the unit that we keep repeating to get the length of the bracelet that we need. Just to make you aware that I have decided that the connector beads in between the bicones to change the color from red to black to give some contrast. And now let's start loading the needles. So we have 1 length of thread with needles at both ends. Now we pick up the first seed bead and we drop it to the middle of the thread. And now we have the right, and we pick up the right beads on the right and drop them to the middle. Then we pick up the beads on the left and drop them down to the middle. And this is the bead where the threads will cross. And now we pull, and this is the first half. And now again on the right needle we pick up the beads that we have for the right, and on the left the beads for the left. We drop them to the middle, and now we cross them like this through this 11-0, and this will be the sequence that we keep repeating for the needed length. Usually when we are using this type of clasp that takes about ½ inch, we will have to bead the length needed around the wrist less this ½ inch. So for a 6.5 inch needed, we will bead 6 inches. I will bead the length that I need of the camera, and I will be back when we finish the first strip. And here I have finished a length of 6 inches. So this is the length I need for my bracelet, and here we are going to finish off this strip by going back and reinforcing these last few units with both needles. So we go back with both needles, and while we do this, we make sure that there is no slack thread left in between the beads previous units. So we just pull carefully but surely. We just pull the thread. So when we are sure that we have taken off all the thread, we hold the work and we start making a few knots. Okay, and the second one. This way the shape and the length should be stabilized. If you want to go for 2 knots for each needle, that would be absolutely fine. And when we finish, we just weave in the thread a few beads further away from the knot. And then we just trim the thread, and we do this with both threads. Okay. and here we can trim the thread. And this is our first strip, ready to begin working with the second one in the next step. Now, before we start working on the second strip, you need to decide which color you want to show up as, let's say, a flower in the middle of the bracelet. So if it's the black, then on the right you need to have the black bicones. If it's the red, then you need to have the right the bicones to the right. So whatever bicones you have to the right, they will make the flower in the middle of the bracelet. We will create the second strip and connect it to the first strip in the same time. So let's build up our base unit. We will replace these ones with the red seed beads. We have the connector. We have here the seed bead where the threads will cross. And now the seed bead in between these two bicones will be used from here, and this is how we make the connection. Now let's load, and before loading, let's make the second unit, or the second part of the unit. So we will have 3 again 3, the connector, the red bicones here on the right, and here we will use the connector bead, the 4th, as the connector for this branch. So we have a new length of thread with needles on both sides. We pick up the starting bead, we drop it to the middle, and now on the right we have 3, 1 and 3 seed beads, and we drop them. And on the left we pick up the bicone, then the seed bead from the first strip, the bicone, and the bead where we cross the threads. We cross the threads and we drop everything at the bottom, and this is our first half a unit. And now we continue picking up the beads that are waiting for us, and on the right needle we pick up the sequence and we drop it. On the left needle we pick up 3 seed beads, then we connect with the 4th here, so 1, 2, 3, the 4th, then we pick up the next 3, drop the seed beads, pick up the connector, not the connector, the bead where the threads cross, pull the threads, and here we have our first unit ready. And we continue like this by creating the unit first, because it's easier. You can pick up the beads right away, but this way is not confusing. 1 2 3 1 2 3. So this would be the first half, and then and 1 2 3 1 2 3, and the bead where the threads cross. And this is how you continue until you get to the other end of the bracelet. And here I am at building up my last unit to connect with the first strip. Here you make sure the thread is tight and there are no gaps in between the beads that we have just added. And here I'm going to pick 3 seed beads, skip 3, go through the 4th for the connection, and pick up 3 more. Now I have a red, black seed bead, and then again red. And now it's time for our last seed bead, where we cross the threads. And here we have our beaded area finished, and we do the same thing we've done with the first unit at the end, and we just reinforce with both threads, but this time we are not going to trim it, we are going to use it to connect the clasp. So we go down a few units and we make sure that is well reinforced, no threads slacking. And now we go back up. And we leave the thread at the first bead after the bicone, because that bead we are going to use to connect the clasp. And we do the same thing with the second thread. And then we bring the thread up, and we leave it after in the seed bead after the first bicone. Okay, so here we have our bracelet ready to have the clasp attached. And here we have our clasp, and the idea is that we will connect with a thread loop this seed bead with this loop, and then this seed bead with the second loop. So with the thread coming out of the seed bead, we go under the loop and over, through the seed bead, under and over, about 2 times, and then we gently pull the thread, and then we can reinforce a few more times, and we can also reinforce by weaving the thread in the first unit and coming back up through this seed bead again, and we make a few more loops of this reinforcement. Okay, 5 or 6 loops should do, and then when we finished with this loop, we just weave in the thread in the work and make a few knots, and then cut the thread. And we repeat the same with the other thread from the other needle, and here we just cut the thread. Now we pick up the other thread and go under, over, through the seed bead from the other side, so we make a loop here around the seed bead. Okay, under, over, through the seed bead. When we have 2 loops, we gently pull and continue this a few more times. Then we reinforce around the first unit, and make a few more loops around the clasp loop and the seed bead. And here we are ready and weaving the thread, making a few knots. Okay. And now we can cut the second thread. And now we are ready to attach the other side. For the other side we have a new thread and we connect it to our work with one knot, and we leave half of it on the other side of the knot so we can use it for the second clasp, so something like this. Yep. And now we go up to the first seed bead after or before the bicone, and here we start attaching the clasp. Here we make sure that the bracelet is not twisted, so we bring together with the clasp, we go under and over through the seed bead, making sure we create a loop in the seed bead, and then again under and over. Okay, and now we can gently pull the thread. And now we continue a few more times, and the same thing with reinforcing through the first unit of the seed bead. And then make a few more loops. And now we weave in and cut the thread. Now we pick up the other half of the thread and we move the thread again on the first seed bead after the bicone. We check again to make sure that the band is not twisted, and now we connect on the last loop, going under and over and closing it with a circle in the seed bead, under and over, and now we pull the thread and we just reinforce a few more times through the seed bead, and then we go through the first unit and then we weave in through the work. And here we have our bracelet. And here we have our bracelet. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe if you liked it and you want to see more in the future, and don't forget to check the playlist that is at the end of this video for more easy projects. Thank you for watching. See you with our next tutorial. Ciao ciao.